Tinspaces is a construction company that focuses primarily building habitable spaces with shipping containers. The idea is that you have a resource that has been looked down on for housing. It's not considered for use for housing, but with a container. What we do is that we take that unit that's used for shipping goods and services across the world. We use that we recycle those containers at the end of their life to give it a new life. Hi, my name is Olaoluwa Bamisile. I'm the founder of Tinspaces Integrated Services Limited. I think everything revolves around creating for me. If you understand what I mean, creating something out of nothing. I think that's where I started all of this from. I was a photographer at one point, and for me, it's that aspect of creating something out of nothing, and that's where all of this kind of started from. I schooled outside Nigeria, and when you live in a different country, it changes your perspective as to what's possible, and seeing the way they live. Their climate also informs a lot of things, the way their buildings behave. So in view of that, I saw something very similar to this outside Nigeria, and that was really where all of this started from. I went into one, and I was like, okay, this is actually a solution that can work. These guys outside Nigeria have to deal with a whole lot of other weather conditions than we do. We're here in Nigeria, it's mostly hot and rainy, but they have to deal with hot, cold, and then they could still ensure that the container was utilized in a way where it's habitable. And I think that's where all of this started from. Basically, yes, I, like I said, studied outside Nigeria. I read international business and management for my master's, and business administration for my degree. And I think being a businessman or having things to do around business has been something that I've always wanted to do. After my degree, I went into the bank and I worked there for 5 years, Sterling Bank, and that gave me a bit more idea as to how the Nigerian market works, how to sell something like this. And with the kind of experience that I got there, I could see that there was a gap in the market for something like this, where you utilize containers to build spaces and try and change the way the real estate market works in Nigeria, or add an option for customers to choose. I'm a family of 5 boys. We have 5 boys. I have 4 brothers, total 5, and we're just regular guys that basically went to school, did everything that we had to do, and then everybody went to go find a job and stuff like that. But then the whole job line just didn't work out for me. I still understood the need to get a job, to understand how the market works and stuff like that. But the idea about it is that being my own man, being my own person was something that I'd always wanted to do. So with Tinspaces, we build container architecture, design, and lifestyle. So that's what we do. We turn containers into habitable spaces. That's it in a long and short. The idea is that there is other ways to build, and no one is looking at those ways. We are stuck in a simple way of building, which is brick and mortar. We call it a wet build. What we do here is called a dry build, where you're not needing wet materials to do the work. Everything you buy or everything you put into the unit is a buy and fix. This greatly increases the time that it's required to build a house, even though it might be on the more expensive side, but it is a major cost saving. And in the market that we're in, Nigeria right now, time is money. The word time is money cannot be overstated, because if you're building for a longer period of time, you might have a problem, because the markets might shift, and you might have to make sure that you make recommendations, or you make allocations for those movements, and many times you find out that somebody would have to lose. So just like with any type of housing, a container can be used to build anything, starting from swimming pools to housing. Yes, I've done a swimming pool with a shipping container. I'll send you pictures. So swimming pools, houses, shops, restaurants, whatever type of building you would like to build, even with a normal brick and mortar design, a container can be used to build it, the same thing. The idea is just to know how many you're going to put together, know what type of weight distributions that you're going to have when it comes to going up a level or going up multiple levels. And basically we call it Lego building, because you can literally just stack these things in a day and finish them off at a good pace. So the idea here is that it depends on what it is you want to build. A container can be used to build anything. So whatever ideas you have, a container can be used to build it. Now, is it the best for every type of construction? No. So a container now is best for areas where maybe it's very remote, getting blocks and workers and all those people. Imagine areas like Ilashe. Yes, where the only way to access those areas is via So modular construction and container construction would help out in building places and locations like that, in that you can prefabricate them here on the mainland and then move them to those places to go and finish up and construct. Yes. When it comes to building a container space, the idea here is to have a plan. So with a plan, you know how to execute. Once you know where your doors and windows are going to be placed, then the next step will be to get all the internals done. Internals that require dry materials. That's the difference between using a container for architecture than brick and mortar. You use dry materials, so things like POP boards, plywood boards, tiles, all the logging that goes into the insides that keeps the unit standing, the insulation, all of that is now what comes in after to make the space habitable. You know, every single space must have this. So depending on whatever type of building that you're building, or your building must have insulation, your building must have cladding for the walls, must have glass, must have doors. So all of these are standard in whatever type of building that you're going to build, even if it comes to a shipping container or normal structure. So with that, you know what's going into it. Now your plan will now determine how expensive or how cheap that would now become. I think one of the biggest hurdles, and I think that might be a mind thing for most people, is that many people consider containers to be cheap. Being the fact that, you know, it might be a different way to build or an alternative, they might think this alternative might actually be much less expensive than block. But I hate to bust your bubble, it absolutely is not. It's more expensive, and with that, what it gives you in return is the speed to deployment. The idea is that you're building for a much shorter period than you would with any other type of construction, especially much faster than brick and mortar. The idea here is that if you build faster, then at the end of the day, you'll make a saving. If you're building for longer, then things like inflation, you know, foreign exchange risk, all these things can crystallize and make your build more expensive at the long run. So what a container build offers you versus a typical build, it's basically that speed to deployment. When it comes to cost, I think that's the biggest downsides that many people will look at. It is a more expensive build, but with that, what you will get on the other hand, like I said, is a much quicker build, and you can use it to build whatever it is that you want. So I think when it comes to container architecture, the biggest thing holding us back in Nigeria is the mind. Many people have a preconception that, oh, containers get hot, or containers cannot be utilized for building, or they cannot be stacked, you cannot use them to build high. But I would like to say that that notion can easily be dissuaded, because container architecture outside Nigeria has gone such a long way. It has helped out in so many ways, because in some locations, building with brick and mortar will be absolutely expensive. So building a structure at a different location, whilst groundwork is being done at a different at the main site, it's very important to speed up the build. If I don't have to wait for my foundations to dry and I can start my foundation at the same time as when I'm building my main structure, I believe that is it's a big win-win for everyone involved. The thing with brick and mortar construction is that one process has to follow the next, whilst with container architecture, all processes can start at the same time, greatly increasing the time needed, or greatly reducing the time required to deploy a building. Like I said, the pandemic period was a big part of this. A lot of people saw what building for a longer period of time would do to a budget. So if you said you started a budget or started a build with a budget of, let's say, 5 million as at January of this year, you can say very much with a clear mind that you're not going to finish with a budget of 5 million at December this year, because we've had such a massive shift. And this is where the foreign exchange risk and all those other risks that crystallize in an environment like ours. So we think that the best way to build will be to build fast so that you hedge yourself against all those risks that might crystallize. We started this in 2019. I think we've done a lot around commercial properties. We would like to really push this into the residential aspect of it and see how that really pans out, because we really believe that the dearth of real estate that we have, I think we have about 19 million homes that the government should be able to provide or should have provided, and those houses that just haven't materialized. This ranges from a whole bunch of factors, change of government, just the plans. Everything that has to do with building a typical building is generally takes longer. But when you're building with a container, you can deploy these things faster than generally faster than you can a normal house. So for us, the idea is to move into more residential spaces and see how we can jig up the real estate markets in Nigeria.